This is the winery office building. Built in 1898, it generated Farmington's first electricity. It became LaSalle's Winery. It survived over a century, but it couldn't survive what happened after its owner died in 2014. Union City man found guilty of swindling siblings, stealing from his father's estate. November 2024.
I do find that the other members of this family have suffered emotional upheaval. This isn't just about loss of property. It is about loss of relationship and loss of trust and the inability to reconcile those things. Although the trust is in the named entity in this matter, the trust stands for the benefit of other people, and those other people were the siblings and extended families of the defendant here.
It took 10 years, but David White was finally convicted of embezzling over $400,000 from his father's trust. But that's not where the story ends. That's where it gets complicated.
Your community is facing challenges. Decisions are being made that affect your family, your neighborhood, and your future. But what if you had the power to ensure accountability and demand transparency? The call is coming. It's a summons to serve, to step up, and to be a voice for your community. This is your chance to join a group of dedicated citizens ready to make a difference. As a member of a citizen grand jury, you will investigate local government, examine evidence, and question officials. You have the power to uncover the truth and ensure our leaders are held to the highest standard. Your service can lead to real change, sparking investigations and driving essential reforms. See the direct impact of your dedication as your community thrives. Stand with fellow citizens, united in purpose and proud of your contribution. Be the change. Raise your hand and take the oath.
Let the journey begin. Judge O'Brien made a promise that day. Thomas Brennan Frazier would be bound by the same rules as any co-trustee. And if Frazier saw a problem, if he saw money being stolen, assets being wasted, he could come right to the court and say, "Judge, here, there's a big problem here. You need to investigate this." Thomas Brennan Frazier took an oath to support the Constitution, to faithfully discharge his duties according to the best of his ability. He never reported the problem. He was the problem. Thomas Frazier provided a statement to Dr. Peter Littenberg, a psychologist evaluating John White's capacity. Based in part on Frazier's input, Dr. Littenberg wrote,
Mr. White demonstrates mild cognitive problems on examination. It was also clear from those assessments that Mr. White is best served at this time by having a court-appointed trustee take over his trust. Mr. White was financially exploited by 4 of his 5 sons, per the public administrator.
The public administrator was Thomas Brennan Frazier. Frazier told the doctor that John White was being exploited by 4 of his 5 sons, not David, the other 4, the ones who were actually protecting him. Frazier was supposed to monitor the trust. Frazier was the professional. Frazier had the duty. APS report said that John White had been found sitting in his own urine and fecal matter. There was $90,000 in bonds that disappeared.
The question is, do you trust a public administrator or not? And I do. Or I wouldn't appoint him. I absolutely, with 100% confidence, he will tell us if there's a problem.
It began when the family member read the notice from the nutrition coordinator from the Meals on Wheels volunteer program.
It has come to our attention over the past several months that you've appeared in your undergarments when entering the door.
A nurse from the VA hospital contacted Adult Protective Services. The referral was clear: self-neglect, financial exploitation, isolation. The Adult Protective Services agent, Sherry Kern, reported,
John White, 81, resides in his own apartment. John has been diagnosed with COPD with 18% lung capacity.
John White was sick, very sick. He needed help.
David White, John's son, has moved portions of John's trust money into an account with John and David White as the beneficiary. It is believed that David is currently financially exploiting John. Previously, John had 2 other sons that used to pay his bills and other financial needs. John will only take the advice of David. John does not follow the doctor's direction for his medication. David has advised that the RN and 2 other brothers will be blamed if anything happens to John because they own the building where John resides. The other sons visit John daily.
David White is financially exploiting his father. John White is only taking advice from David. David has warned that if anything happens to John, he'll blame the other brothers, Jim and Bruce, who actually own the place where John lives. John White had his family attorney, Art Pisani, for over 2 decades. But on September 14, 2012, attorney Amber Atkins filed an appearance with the Oakland County Probate Court. And then 3 weeks later, Amber Atkins creates a letter to start the isolation process using false narratives. There was already $90,000 missing. John White had cashed in bonds and put them in a joint account with David. John White did not indicate he had an immediate need of these funds for personal care or expenses. Did some of the money go to the Prince Law Firm for legal fees? Now that on September 26, John White is in the courtroom with Shaheen Amani from the Prince Law Firm as the Adult Protective Services agent, Sherry Kern, who first petitioned the probate court.
I understand that, Your Honor. As long as I'm able to do that kind of discovery, that's fine. I would ask that there be no discovery permitted by petitioner or any of the other interested parties until I receive something more specific in terms of the way or facts to support the petition itself. I don't want this to be any kind of a fishing expedition as to what disgruntled children might think that they're entitled to or what.
I object to that.
To what they might want to get their hands on.
5 months later, John White was moved out of his first-floor rent-free apartment that was owned by his sons and moved to a second-floor apartment by David White where he had to pay $784 a month. John White was isolated from 4 of his sons, and they were not aware that John White had moved into this 1-year lease at Farmington Oaks apartment. Then on February 16th, Adult Protective Services came out again.
EMS was called to the house this evening to check on John due to his having a general altered mental status. He was not cooperative and was hallucinating at times. John was in a soiled diaper that was on long enough to dig into his skin, causing sores, and he was sitting in fecal matter and urine. The couch he was sitting on was soaked through with his urine. There was no evidence of John having nursing assistants in his home. John was taken to Botsford Hospital in Farmington Hills.
John White died 2.5 months later on May 3rd, 2014. The citizen grand jury is coming to Farmington, Michigan. The citizens will become aware of what happened to the building that John White owned, the old winery building on Grand River Avenue. The citizens will meet Jeff White, the 3rd son of John White, who was denied of his jury trial in April of 2017 because of an error that was made by Daniel A. O'Brien. Jeff White paid over $18,000 to get a favorable court of appeals to have his jury trial in August of 2019. One of the questions that will be asked of the citizen grand jury is Daniel A. O'Brien, elected public functionary as an Oakland County probate judge, going to be held responsible for the harm that was done to this Oakland County family, a family that trusted their probate court system, a family that trusted the court-ordered county public administrator, Thomas Brennan Frazier, who had an ethical duty to monitor the finances of John Stirling White. First, the missing $90,000 from 2012, and then the missing $648,444 from the Talmer account due to the lease transaction that took place in May of 2015. In 2024, what the judge already knew 12 years ago, David White was found guilty of conducting a criminal enterprise in the probate court while embezzling over $1.2 million. Question number 2. Is David White's co-trustee, Thomas Brennan Frazier, who has been the overseer of this estate since 2012, liable for the harm he has done to the estate of John Stirling White?